right, everybody, welcome back to the Elias Macco Show. Let's take a look at the cost of booze, shall we? Let's look at the cost of booze. Federal government is planning to hike alcohol taxes by 4.7% in 2024. Beer, wine, spirits on April 1st, they'll rise. Let's find out more with the team that absolutely hates every single type of tax possible. Franco Terrazzano is with us, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Hi, Franco.
Hey, nice intro. Happy to be here today.
So, listen, can I just ask you this? You know, it's still a ways away. It's October 31st. Happy Halloween.
Yep.
Why the big stink on alcohol taxes in April of next year?
Well, because we just crunched the numbers, right? We just got data back from Statistics Canada that lets us do this, and now we're going to start sounding the alarm ahead of April 1. We're starting the campaign right now, and step number 1 is showing Canadians how much federal excise taxes on alcohol are going to be going up. And they're going up, scheduled for 4.7% tax hike next year. And, of course, even that downplays just how much you're paying in tax every time you go to the liquor store or you go to the restaurant. We're already paying in total about 50% of the price of beer in tax, about 65% of the price of wine in tax, and more than 3/4 of the price of spirits, the vodka, the bourbon, the rum. That's tax. So here we are, sounding the alarm. You're already paying an arm and a leg every time you want to have that, cold one after a long week, or you just want to enjoy a nice bottle of Pinot with your better half, and the government is raising taxes again.
So break it down, a bottle of beer, a can of beer, how much more expensive does it get? Or let's say the bottle of wine. What are we talking about here, really?
Okay, so Elias, it's tough to say exactly how that's going to go to the consumer, right? Because some of this might be eaten by the microbrewer, it might be eaten by the distiller, it might be eaten by the restaurant. So it's tough to say exactly how this is going to translate every time you go to the store. But what we do know is that the total cost in the economy is about $96 million from this tax increase alone. Now, when you're talking about consumer beer, for example, you're paying a federal excise tax, you're paying a federal sales tax, you got provincial beer taxes and charges, also known as liquor markups. You also have a provincial sales tax. And on beer taxes in Canada are about 5 times more than what you're paying in U.S. states every time you travel south of the border.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Now, what do you say to someone that says, well, it's a sin tax? You're buying a sin, you got to pay up.
Well, there's a couple things, right? I mean, first, taxes on spirits is already 75%. How high do you want that to go?
It's 75%? So you buy a bottle of whiskey, 75% is tax?
Exactly.
Wow.
75% of that is tax. So, how high are we going to make this thing? Mm-hmm. The second one, too, is, look, if the politician's argument is that this is going for health care, okay, have that argument. But they're not having that argument in the House of Commons. Nobody's having the argument. This tax increase is set to go on without a single vote in Parliament, and that's what's been going on since 2017. Nobody's been making the argument. They've just been stealthily increasing their tax take every single year because of this tax policy that the federal government brought in 2017.
Now, Franco, I have a solution. Hear me out, okay? One way we could get these taxes removed or lowered, and that's by making sure that there's a vocal group in some part of the country that may not vote for the Liberals. Because we saw it happen a few days ago that the home heating oil tax for Atlantic Canada, that was carved out of the carbon tax. So is that the key here, Franco? Some just vocal opposition and threatening the loss of votes?
Well, I'm not sure it has to be a partisan thing. I do think it does have to be vocal opposition. Right? I mean, the reason that the Atlantic Canadians got the carbon tax relief and the rest of Canadians essentially didn't, because let's just be honest, right? The vast majority of people getting carbon tax relief is coming in Atlantic Canada. The rest of Canadians, for the vast majority, are not getting carbon tax relief. But the reason I say it doesn't have to be a partisan thing is because who led the charge for Atlantic Canadians to get relief? Let's set aside the opposition for a second. It was one Liberal member of Parliament, Ken MacDonald, in Newfoundland and Labrador. Right? So it doesn't have to be an opposition party kind of thing. It can come from within the Liberal ranks. And in fact, we're calling all Liberal members of Parliament in the rest of Canada to do what Ken MacDonald did and call for tax relief for their constituents as well.
Franco, what are your thoughts when you see the government act and they use a scalpel to remove a tax just for certain people. What are your thoughts when you see that? Because obviously less tax is a good thing, but when you see it just carved out for a specific group, what goes through your mind?
Well, it makes me pretty upset. I mean, first, good for the Atlantic Canadians who do need relief, and I'm glad some people are getting some relief who use furnace oil to stay warm. But 97% of Canadians use other forms of energy to heat their homes, right? Like natural gas and other forms of energy. So another question that comes through my mind is, well, when are the other members of the Liberal Party going to speak up for their constituents? Whether they're in Quebec, whether they're in Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, British Columbia, we haven't heard a peep from any Liberal member of Parliament outside of Atlantic Canada actually voicing the concerns of their citizens who are worried about their home heating bills. Well, let me just give you an example. I know you guys are in Montreal for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
My family's in southern Alberta. Last week it was minus 10 out there. There was snow covering the ground. My mom was sending me photos. Hey, hon, look at the snowfall. And here's the problem. They're going to get hammered with a natural gas carbon tax, this bill, of about $300. So I'm over here wondering why it's fair for some Canadians to get the relief, but why all Canadians aren't entitled to that exact same type of carbon tax relief.
Franco, there's no doubt we've got an affordability crisis right now in the country, and it goes from the grocery store to what you're paying at restaurants to heating, all of that, right? Are you, your group, Canadian Taxpayers Federation, are you seeing, I don't know, a wave or a groundswell of support that you don't normally get?
Well, I mean, especially now on the carbon tax issue. Absolutely. There was a poll that was reported on by the National Post. I can't remember which pollster conducted it, but a majority of Canadians now either want the carbon tax cut or killed. So there is momentum saying, hey, Mr. Trudeau, we're really struggling right now, right? And we understand that there's other factors outside of the government's control that is driving up prices. But the one thing that is in the government's control is how much they spend in tax. And specifically on the tax front, please, please, please just give us a little break right now, right? And this is one reason we drive home opposition to the carbon tax is because the carbon tax is a specific tax that is inflationary by nature and makes it more expensive every time you go to the pumps to fuel up your car, to take your kids to hockey practice. It makes it more expensive to heat your homes during the winter months. And it makes it more expensive to buy food because it taxes the truckers who bring food to the store, and it taxes the farmers who produce the food that we ultimately buy. So that is exactly why we're really raging hard against the carbon tax right now.
Franco, don't rage too hard. The last thing we want is Stephen Guilbeault climbing any more buildings. But I appreciate your time this morning.
Well, thank you so much, and happy Halloween, everyone. Stay safe out there.
Happy Halloween, Franco. That's Franco Terrazzano, Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.